and long for. Indivisa Font, a font system for the global Lasallian community. A common voice to reflect our personality. Traditional but innovative. Formal and fun. Approachable, fraternal. Fresh and energetic. Dynamic, expressive. Versatile or diverse. 2 families, 28 variants, and 25,000 glyphs to express ourselves in 270 languages. From the smallest to the largest, from what is simple to what is complex, with different rhythms and intonations, in numbers, codes, or signs, for digital environments or conventional media. A human font for a global and transformative community. Indivisa Font is for everyone and for everything.
Chucho, tal vez cuando pongas el video vale la pena apagar las blancas que iluminan la sala. ¿O se oscurece mucho?
Imagina un espacio en blanco.
Ándale, está muy bien así, Chucho, gracias.
Un espacio donde puedas construir lo que quieras. ¿Qué harías? Imagina un espacio para ser como eres, único, en donde compartas lo que imaginas y sientes, lo que buscas y esperas, en donde tus sueños se hacen realidad. Un espacio en donde las personas que te rodean te muestran cuán lejos puedes llegar. En donde encuentres a tus amigos de vida y formes recuerdos de instantes irrepetibles. En donde aprendas todo lo que siempre quisiste. Imagina un lugar para desarrollar el potencial de las personas. Para crecer integralmente y convertirse en profesional con valor. Un espacio innovador de reflexión y búsqueda para crear el mañana. Un espacio vivo, dinámico, multicultural, en donde convivan la tecnología, la ciencia y las humanidades. Un espacio para descubrir en el servicio a otro una oportunidad de realización. Un espacio para hacer del trabajo en equipo una experiencia y del esfuerzo un triunfo. Para conquistar nuevos horizontes. Buscar nuevas experiencias que forjen tu destino. Imagina un espacio sin límites que permita crecer en libertad, donde puedas construir lo que siempre has soñado. Así es Campus Lasalle. Tu espacio.
300 years of history. Such a diverse community requires communicating what we are, think, do, and long for. Indivisa Font, a font system for the global Lasallian community. A common voice to reflect our personality. Traditional but innovative. Formal and fun. Approachable, fraternal. Fresh and energetic. Dynamic, expressive. Versatile or diverse. 2 families, 28 variants, and 25,000 glyphs to express ourselves in 270 languages. From the smallest to the largest. From what is simple to what is complex, with different rhythms and intonations, in numbers, codes, or signs. For digital environments or conventional media. A human font for a global and transformative community. Indivisa Font is for everyone and for everything. LaSalle. 5 continents, 80 countries, more than 1 million members, and 300 years of history. Such a diverse community requires communicating what we are, think, do, and long for. Indivisa Font, a font system for the global Lasallian community. A common voice to reflect our personality. Traditional but innovative. Formal and fun. Approachable, fraternal. Fresh and energetic. Dynamic, expressive. Versatile or diverse. 2 families, 28 variants, and 25,000 glyphs to express ourselves in 270 languages. From the smallest to the largest. From what is simple to what is complex, with different rhythms and intonations, in numbers, codes, or signs. For digital environments or conventional media. A human font for a global and transformative community. Indivisa Font is for everyone and for everything.
Imagina un espacio en blanco. Un espacio donde puedas construir lo que quieras. ¿Qué harías? Imagina un espacio para ser como eres. Único. En donde compartas lo que imaginas y sientes. Lo que buscas y esperas, en donde tus sueños se hacen realidad. Un espacio en donde las personas que te rodean te muestran cuán lejos puedes llegar. En donde encuentres a tus amigos de vida y formes recuerdos de instantes irrepetibles. En donde aprendas todo lo que siempre quisiste. Imagina un lugar para desarrollar el potencial de las personas, para crecer integralmente y convertirse en profesional con valor. Un espacio innovador de reflexión y búsqueda para crear el mañana. Un espacio vivo, dinámico, multicultural, en donde convivan la tecnología, la ciencia y las humanidades. Un espacio para descubrir en el servicio a otro una oportunidad de realización. Un espacio para hacer del trabajo en equipo una experiencia y del esfuerzo un triunfo. Para conquistar nuevos horizontes. Buscar nuevas experiencias que forjen tu destino. Imagina un espacio sin límites que permita crecer en libertad, donde puedas construir lo que siempre has soñado. Así es Campus Lasalle. Tu espacio.
Lasalle. 5 continentes, 80 países, más de 1 millón de integrantes y 300 años de historia. Una comunidad tan diversa requiere comunicar lo que somos, pensamos, hacemos y anhelamos. Indivisa Font, un sistema tipográfico para la comunidad lasallista global. Una voz común para reflejar nuestra personalidad. Tradicional pero innovadora. Formal y divertida. Cercana. Fraterna. Fresca y enérgica. Dinámica, expresiva. Versátil o diversa. 2 familias, 28 variantes y 25.000 glifos para expresarnos en 270 idiomas. Desde lo más pequeño a lo más grande. De lo sencillo a lo complejo, con distintos ritmos y entonaciones, en números, códigos o signos. Para entornos digitales o soportes convencionales. Una tipografía humana para una comunidad global y transformadora. Indivisa Font es para todos y para todo.
Hace más de 300 años, un idealista, Juan Bautista de Lasalle, tuvo el sueño de llevar educación a cada rincón del planeta. Creó un modelo de escuela plural, abierto a la diversidad, en donde cada niño, joven y adulto se desarrollase en una comunidad que trabaja por la calidad académica y una prioridad, la persona. Con 57 años de experiencia, nuestra universidad es un espacio donde nos formamos como profesionales con valor, con amor por nuestra historia, creadores activos del presente y forjadores del futuro en el que queremos vivir. Hoy Lasalle crece en la búsqueda de la verdad y la justicia, en la apertura e integración del entorno físico y social, en el desarrollo de cimientos sólidos para nuestras ideas, en la investigación e innovación para consolidar nuestro compromiso de transformación. Es por eso que abrimos las puertas de un nuevo espacio. El Centro de Bienestar, un lienzo en blanco que se iluminará con la creatividad, la espontaneidad y las experiencias que rítmicamente expresarán nuestra capacidad artística y la forma como vivimos la cultura. Un templo de esfuerzo, perseverancia, pasión y energía que potencializará nuestra sed de victoria, de sana competencia y anhelos por volar muy alto. Un recinto de ideas, de trabajo colaborativo, liderazgo participativo e inclusión se transforman en proyectos y compromiso comunitario. Un puente entre el desarrollo personal, espiritual e introspectivo y las necesidades del entorno al que pertenecemos y transformamos todos los días. Un espacio de todos, vivo, cuya razón de ser es la formación y el desarrollo de las personas. Un espacio para descubrir de qué estamos hechos y darle vida a nuestro modelo educativo. Será posible si tú vienes y lo haces realidad. Campus Lasalle, mi espacio.
Your attention, please. You are at the Adrian Gibert Auditorium of LaSalle University. This auditorium has 6 emergency exits situated, 1 at the front, 3 in the central hall, and 2 more at the back. In case there is an earthquake or fire, the alarm system will be activated. Go to the nearest exit and follow the surveillance personnel's indications. Remember, do not run, do not push, nor shout during the evacuation from the auditorium. Thank you for your attention. Su atención, por favor. Se encuentra usted en el auditorio Adrian Gibert de la Universidad La Salle. Este auditorio cuenta con 6 salidas de emergencia, ubicadas, una en la parte frontal, 3 en el corredor central y 2 más en la parte posterior. En caso de sismo o incendio, se activará el sistema de alarma. Diríjase a la puerta de salida más cercana y siga las indicaciones del personal de vigilancia. Recuerde, no correr, no empujar, ni gritar durante la evacuación del auditorio. Por su atención, gracias.
Solicito a todos los asistentes tomar sus lugares para poder dar inicio a la sesión del día de hoy.
Acordémonos de que estamos en la santa presencia de Dios. Adorémosle.
Vamos a cantar todos juntos.
Acordémonos de que estamos en la santa presencia de Dios. Adorémosle.
Como el fundador y los primeros hermanos, que fueron impresionados por el desamparo humano y espiritual de los hijos de los artesanos y de los pobres, los lasallistas de hoy necesitamos responder efectivamente a las necesidades expresadas en la metáfora de la frontera. Esta metáfora nos incomoda y nos reta. ¿Cómo responder? En Jesús tenemos el modelo de quien se deja interpelar y es capaz de discernir. Juan Bautista de Lasalle también se dejó tocar por la realidad de su tiempo y se preguntó cuál era la voluntad de Dios. El discernimiento lasallista sigue en líneas generales 3 pasos. Tomar conciencia de la realidad personal y circundante.
Reality.
Iluminar la realidad con la palabra
Enlight
de
the
Dios
reality with God's
a través de la oración
word
y el
through
diálogo,
pray and dialogue,
y decidir
and decide
asumir personal y
to assume
comunitariamente
personally and
las
communitary
implicaciones.
all the implications.
En el origen de la vocación
In the origin of Saint Jean-Baptiste de La Salle, we could say that these steps were his exit more beyond the encounter with him, the encounter with the world and education of poor people, the dialogue in company with Nicolas Barré or Nicolas Roland, and the establishment of the first schools and the first society of teachers. With more than 300 years of Lasallian's existence, we are here to discern with responsibility and power our response to the challenges of educational mission in different contexts, with specific cultures, different religions, and the complex variety of conditions that we have in society. In this second encounter day, let's have one heart, one commitment, in one life, beyond borders.
Estamos en la santa presencia de Dios, adorémosle.
Viva Jesús en sus corazones.
Live Jesus in our hearts forever. Good morning. Good morning. That's it. Welcome. Welcome all of you once again to our second day. We are gathered here as Lasallians without borders to keep reflecting together the mission and the challenges for the 21st century. This morning we're going to start with a special activity. Students from Cristobal Colon School are here with us, and they will motivate us because we want to start today. Cristobal Colon School is really very close to Basilica de Guadalupe. Some of our students, they offer their service as chorus guys, and it is a great pleasure for us being with our Holy Mother. So let's welcome them, our students from Cristobal Colon. A big applause for them. We want to invite you all to please just stand up. We want to activate our bodies because we are happy and we want to enjoy, as the Pope Francisco said. And these students from Cristobal Colon School will show us a very simple choreography. So everybody has to do it. It has 3 simple steps. These ladies are going to show you how to do them, showing one heart, one commitment, and one life.
Poverty is where the seed of hope, a little light of peace.
Une fraternité continue la mission de le guide avec la foi. Et aide ceux qui souffrent avec sa exigence. Les rameaux gagnent le cœur et dans raison de croire, tu peux changer la vie.
If we decided to take an option for the others who wanted to be and learn together, preaching by example, always doing with His presence. We all learn from the Star Trek, we all walk through the Skyway. We share one heart, one commitment, one life to live with all the rest. One love, one life, one commitment, with the
Hoy vamos tras sus pies, nos une un corazón, sintiendo nuestra fe, viviendo nuestra unión. La hora de la verdad, sembrando la ilusión, mirada más allá, Lasallian vive hoy. We share one heart, one continent, one life to live with all the rest. One love, one life, one commitment, living our hearts forever. We share one heart, one commitment, one life to live with all the rest. One love, one life, one commitment, living our hearts forever. We share one heart, one commitment, one life to live with all the rest. One love, one life, one commitment, living our hearts forever.
We share one heart, one commitment, one life to live with all the rest. One love, one life, one commitment, live in our hearts forever.
Buenos días.
Good morning. Let's give them a big applause again. Welcome once again to the second journal of the Global Encounter of Lasallian Education. There's no doubt that the main characteristics of Lasallian people is joy, that you have showed today dancing with us with the students from Cristóbal Colón. Let's say hi to all of the guys and ladies that are following us in the streaming. Yesterday we have more than 500 people in 15 countries. So that's how we live Lasallian world, a lot of people. So we invite all of you that are in here and those that are there to be in this event to share with the world everything that we're learning, reflecting, and imagining. Let's do it through social media using hashtag 300Lasalle, hashtag WeAreLasalle, and Semen300. We want to remind us that you have available the interpreting service, and gadgets are in the lobby. Number 1 is for English, and number 2 is for French, Spanish. This conference is going to be in English, so before we start with the topic that we're going to address, it is important for you to have a recap of what we heard yesterday. We invited Aurora Matos, that is the president from Lasallian University, to share with us a brief summary. Good morning, everybody, Lasallian community. Yesterday we started with our congress with a beautiful Aztec dancing. And then Brother Pedro gave a speech, a welcome speech, as well as Brother Gustavo Ramirez. Yesterday, our first conference was given by Frances Pedro, all the challenges and the policies in the classroom. The main ideas of these conferences were that we have more challenges that allow us to identify which are the educational systems that have better results for learning internationally. The thing is that we don't have to be aware of who is at the top, but we need to know how to get to the top. We have different hints that are in the same direction. In first place, all the learning methods and teaching methods that need to change. More than the transmission of contents, it is the development of competencies. And in second place, that is more important, the improvement of learning and the quality of the competencies of teachers than we have to focus our attention. Later on, the dialogue with experts that was focused in the global context and the challenges for education. Our inviters, Alessandra Aula, Brother Juan Antonio, and Carlos Federico Coelho, shared with us the following ideas. Philippe Richard, in every international forum, when we talk about education, we need to consider this as a quantitative context. But when we talk about quality, then we have the confrontation. How can we measure it? Catholic education, and specifically Lasallian education, we have different possibilities to have indicators to measure quality. The language of San John Baptiste de La Salle is updated up to date. With the proposals and quality in education is the main topic regarding right to education. Education is a right, and it's a right that we need to conquer with time. It is a responsibility for all of us, and we need to work on it to have it for everybody. Learning and teaching is sharing knowledge, and education is to transmit values. The value of education is to change the world and to see in our hearts purity and faith. Later on, Alessandra Aula shared with us the following ideas. One of the main goals of education regarding human rights is not only the transmission of knowledge, but the education with values and solidarity. Educate with peace. Education is a human right. It is a challenge to guarantee the main principle as a right, as a continuity with the public policies that make this possible. The responsibility of the states to make it work, to have right to education, and the people to request this right. The freedom of teaching, the autonomy of the schools, and the autonomy of the parents to decide what kind of education want for their kids. It is a commitment, it's a political commitment that is necessary to request and highlight once again. Having the right to education and teaching education and rights as a cultural right is a way to understand the education in a global way. It is a memory that contributes to build an identity, a future project from where we can develop a comprehensive learning for kids and girls and boys. Brother Juan Antonio Ojeda started with a phrase that Pope Francisco said: we need to transform education, we need to transform schools if we want to transform society. Society is changing every time. That's why the schools have to change as well. We don't have to be afraid. He also mentioned the challenges that Catholic schools have nowadays. We have to renew the education that is going to measure the future. We need to have teachers with a lot of knowledge, professionals, updated teachers, capable to communicate not only with the kids and with youngsters. They need to be related in a different way. Educate is to love. We need to be able to give, live, and to bless. We need to be aware that school is something that heals with our heart, with our hands, and with our hands. That was another idea that he shared with us, being solidary so we can humanize society, to transform social context and environmental context, to build projects to inspire the others. Finally, Carlos Federico Coelho, he started saying that we believe that what we are living is unique, and that we haven't had that experience before. However, we're adapting to it. The revolution that globalization started in the 1900s and the continuous change is new for society, and we need to adapt to it. We need to educate, and that's what we do, and that's what Lasallian have done for 300 years. Education is a process, and among others. It is the reason why we do the things. And even though it is something that exists, it requests a lot of attention. Internationalization, not only as a process, but as a context, it has different conditions for different students at different levels. And finally, he ended up saying that education is a right, and it is also a market product. And even though this reality is not, is just a thing of being adapted to it. When they finished with this, yesterday we had the chance to share and reflect about our daily duties of every day. Then we enjoy a great food, as we call it here in Mexico, the brunch. You had the chance to see the gallery, 300 years, one heart, one mission, and if you haven't been there, then you can go at the end or in the break that you have. So that's how we started with the presentations yesterday, richness of educational experiences. We closed the day with reflection tables with our experts. And of course, we have the official picture of the Congress. Well, dear community, let's enjoy this day so we can continue with this Lasallian story in Divisa Manent. Thank you. Thank you very much, Aurora, for this presentation. It is important to mention that all the conferences are going to be recorded in the channel of YouTube, LaSalle Worldwide. I'm going to give just a little announcement. The translators, number 1 is for English, and the second is going to be a multi-channel. It's going to be French-English, English-French, or French-Spanish, Spanish-French, depending on what your needs are. Before we start with the conferences, some of the things that I have to say, we invite you to download the app if you haven't done that. It is Symposium Events, so you can select ICLE event and you can sign up. There you can have the program of the conferences that we will have. You can be in contact with all the participants through this channel. You can have notifications and alerts. If there's somebody that has any doubt to update this app in the hospitality center, you can have some help. Remember that in Plaza Lasalle you will find all the publications that we have from LaSalle from different countries, 15 different countries. Today we have the book presentations. The e-posters of the conferences are in the screens that are in Plaza Lasalle and also in the webpage www.lasalle.mx. For this second day, we will cover the association and educational communities. In Divisa Manent, it has to be lived every day in our different institutions, and we will focus the whole day in this topic. The main conference, that is Mission Critical for a Critical Mission, will be given by Tracy Adams.
The conference will be in English and will remind you that we have translation service and the equipments are delivered in the lobby, in the auditorium. We will not have time for questions, but Dr. Adams will be in one of our open spaces for dialogue with experts. There you can ask her your questions. Tracy Adams is Chief Executive Officer of Your Town, a flagship ministry of the District of Papua Nueva Guinea, Pakistan, Australia, and New Zealand for the service of the marginalized and the poor. Your Town is one of Australia's largest service providers for disadvantaged children and for young people and their families. They support them through counseling, services, and education. She's been a key lay partner for the New Zealand district and Pakistan and Papua New Guinea. She's represented the district in numerous occasions in the Lasallian world. She's been affiliated through many years and she graduated from a Harvard program. She has many positions in the board of directors, and she participates in the consultative committee of professional standards. With nothing further, let's welcome Dr. Adams. Buenos días a todos.
I wanted to share with you that I am a Kiwi, that is, I am from New Zealand, and you may be aware that in the last 24 hours we have had a significant terrorist event in that country, a country where these sorts of things simply don't happen. So this morning, can I ask you to keep those who have been impacted by such devastation in your thoughts and your prayers, and as well as keep the people of New Zealand in your thoughts and your prayers, because they too are utterly shocked and devastated, as I am, by what has taken place. So, thank you very much for that consideration. Firstly, can I just say how very humbled I am to have been invited to this event and to deliver with you a keynote address. Can I firstly acknowledge the General Councillors, brother visitors, leaders of congregations, the organising committee, and of course, all of you, my fellow Lasallians. I have almost 30 years of work within the Lasallian charism, primarily at your town, but more broadly across the Australia, New Zealand, Pakistan and Papua New Guinea district, and fortunate enough to have also been extended internationally. But I want to assure you that I come to you today not as an expert, but as somebody with a lived experience and love for the mission. Better? It is that love for the mission which has really kept me energised and sustained me through challenges, as well as to question at times the way and the why we do things. I do believe that we must not allow ourselves to become so enamoured by our heritage, our tradition, our founder, for as compelling and utterly remarkable as they are, that we do not open our minds and our hearts to what we must do now as critical partners of a critical mission, a mission that is needed today maybe more so than ever before. I have been asked to speak to you on a number of topics this morning, including what I believe to be Lasallian characteristics, particularly those that may also relate to leadership, processes, who our critical stakeholders are, as well as the role of women in the mission. I will also pose questions about our institute structures and what we may need to consider or want to consider now. I know that sounds like an awful lot to cover, but I assure you I will do my best to bring it in on time. It can be very easy to become focused or immersed in what we are undertaking and miss the reality of what is going on around us when it comes to the key elements of the Lasallian mission, that of providing human and Christian education to young people, especially the poor. That was indeed just as true of the founder. He had a direction for his life. He would have walked past those who later became his utmost priority on a regular basis without possibly even seeing or thinking of them. He openly acknowledged that he initially rejected the suggestion of getting involved in the service of education to the poor. His meeting with Adrian Naal was no doubt an awakening moment. However, perhaps more significant was what we might call his courageous reflection. The time spent in challenging himself on the direction for his life and seeking guidance from those who meant the most to him. We too must reflect on our focus too, especially the poor. How much of our work today is focused on that? Do we know? And if we don't, shouldn't we? One of the challenges for any works is how to remain true to the mission, to avoid mission creep. Success, external environmental pressures, especially those delivered by politics and funding bodies, as well as our own fear of letting go, can all contribute to mission creep. It is certainly not for me to suggest that there is mission creep within our works, but we must be prepared to challenge ourselves on how we rationalise or forgive ourselves for using constraints as a means of curtailment rather than developing ways to work with and around them. It seems relevant within that context to also reflect on an important element of our rich tradition, that of gratuity. The founder gave away his personal fortune. The schools created were for anyone at no cost. There was no divide based upon economic fortune, and the brothers were never permitted to take gifts in the recognition that while some could afford to give, others could not. Gratuity is the attitude of giving freely without counting the cost. How much today do we undertake by giving freely? Have we been prepared to let go of some of the founding principles while holding on to others? Defining poor is not without complexity. Finite resources compete with increasing demand as we confront poor across multiple indices: economic, spiritual, and emotional. Yet there can be no denying that education is still not a reality for so many, and as we can see from the examples on the screen, Papua New Guinea, approximately 50% of primary school-aged children are still not in school. In Pakistan, more than 5 million, more than 3 million of those are girls. And in the southern Sudan, 2.2 million. Pakistan and Papua New Guinea are from the district that I am part of, and brothers from our district have been part of the work of South Sudan. These are but 3 countries from across our global network, but they do demonstrate that there is still much to be done. What then to do with that knowledge on the divide between those who can access education and those who cannot? In my own organisation at Your Town, we developed a tool for identifying those communities in Australia of greatest disadvantage for children and young people, so as to guide our decision making on our services. That identified the communities where we should prioritise our efforts and apply our resources, resulting in some programs having to be let go and establishing new services in new areas where the need was greatest. Our board of directors also set a mandate for the organisation more than 15 years ago that we would never be more funded by government than what we could generate independently. I am sure we have all had experience with government agendas not always being in line with the human and educational needs of the poor. Our independence has also meant that we have been able to develop a strong advocacy agenda, giving voice to those who would be voiceless without fear or constraint. Since the time of those decisions, the organisation has grown significantly, both in direct service delivery to children and young people and in our advocacy work. Last year, we supported more than 200,000 young people, and our revenues grew to more than $100 million Australian in that year. This was a direction set for us, and I'm sure that others too have developed the means for determining their own direction in service to the mission. I would maintain that all works must regularly evaluate the real contribution being made to alleviate the disparity of those who have the means and capacity to engage in education in all of its forms against those who do not. There should be no doubt for those in leadership and governance positions across the Institute that they must include in their strategies a very real measure as to their contribution to the mission through service to the poor. As all those engaged with the Lasallian mission should know how they contribute to our purpose, our reason for being, and should understand what is required of them. However, we cannot expect that all in our Lasallian ministries are Lasallians. Working in a Lasallian entity in and of itself doesn't make you a Lasallian. We should look to how we stimulate interest and ensure we have alignment between an individual's personal values and attributes and those of the Lasallian entity. It is not enough to be Lasallian in name. We must be Lasallian in deed and action. It is from seeing what it means to be Lasallian that people seek to find their place, to contribute to the true nature of the mission. Organisations have the responsibility to ensure that they provide those means, enabling those who wish to deepen their connection to be able to do so, but also that all those who work in the mission have at the very least foundational knowledge. The mission lives through the people within our works. They must be equipped. So, formation is the obvious key. A critical component to organisations and individuals is the character of being Lasallian. So what are the characteristics that highlight what it means to be Lasallian? As we think about what attributes we want and need in Lasallians and partners today to achieve success for the mission, the founder is, of course, the ideal starting point. Steadfast, resolute, disciplined, humble, consultative, courageous, enforcer, firm, relentless, reflective, belligerent, gentle, a man of great faith. These are the characteristics which resonated with me, and I am sure that others could name many more. Of all the attributes of the founder, I have often wondered why we have not placed more significance on his courage. Courage is the choice and willingness to confront agony, pain, danger, uncertainty, or intimidation. Physical courage is bravery in the face of physical pain, hardship, death, or threat of death, while moral courage is the ability to act rightly in the face of popular opposition, shame, discouragement, or personal loss. There can be no doubt he confronted opposition, uncertainty, intimidation, discouragement, personal loss, really all the elements we see in the definition of courage. But yet we appear to have not included courage as a Lasallian characteristic, or at the least made very little of it. We have instead focused on faith, service, and community. Of course, such courage was enabled through faith. Faith gave him the strength to stand by his belief, to be prepared to become what we might call today a disruptor, a transformational leader. However, transformation has a partner, and that partner is courage. Courage is very much what we have seen in this mission from the very beginning. It has lived on through those who took the mission to new frontiers, those who put their own lives at risk during wars and conflict, and in those who have never given up on taking the mission to where it is needed the most. So to characteristics required within Lasallians as I see them. Of course, courage. We must have a willingness to be a disruptor, to challenge the status quo, to bring forth new ideas and strategies, and to call out what isn't right. To not only be willing and capable of managing change, but to also create it, and to walk with those who face a very real likelihood of being left behind. We must have zeal, to have the drive to be action-orientated, to have energy, commitment, and an unrelenting belief in the mission of human and Christian education. There is no doubt that faith is a cornerstone, but we must now acknowledge today that faith is diverse. It is no longer just Catholic faith, or indeed Christian faith, because men and women of many different faiths have associated themselves with us. In that broad sense, we are united by the commitment to live by human principles and values. Increasingly, it is in that context that Lasallians are people of faith. Faith and zeal are a package deal. They have been together from the very start. They focus us on the seeing and doing from God's point of view. We must be compassionate, to be empathetic to the needs of those we serve, to see people as individuals, to listen and care, to be a brother and sister to all. And we must be ongoing learners, to remain informed and engaged with contemporary practices, applying research findings, seeking out and utilising new tools for engagement and education. We must be prepared to learn from those we serve. Their lived experience should inform our methods and challenge us to think and do differently. We must also be disciplined, to be uncompromising in the quality of support being provided, and to showcase behaviours which bring our Lasallian values to life. We must also embrace innovation and creativity, to be prepared to try new things, to seek out different approaches in the ways we connect and engage and the ways in which we work. It is not for young people to be relevant to us. We must be relevant to them. We must go to where they are at. Here too, we see a package deal. Innovation requires equal parts creativity and discipline. A new idea will stay an idea without the discipline to implement and implement well. We need to demonstrate social justice, to value each other, to promote needs, to give voice, and to be a force for change. And we should not underestimate the extent to which love plays a strong role in the mission. To love those whom the mission serves and those we share in the mission with. It is that love that means even in the darkest of times, faith and zeal will never fade. And in our leaders and in our future leaders, we should consider further characteristics. They need to be influencers and storytellers. Increasingly, there is a need for leaders to be influencers internally and externally. Internally, they are keepers of the founding story, sharing it and adding to it today. People want to be connected to something that is powerful and that they can see themselves in and understand the role they play. Leaders must have the responsibility for this. It isn't something to hand off to those involved in formation or in the marketing and communication teams to take carriage of. It must ultimately be led by those at the most senior levels in all of our works. They must also apply a similar capacity externally to be able to influence agendas, priorities, social policy, and be advocates for the Lasallian mission. Of course, leaders must be decision makers. Is there anything worse than a leader who doesn't make decisions? Internally, it can be destabilising. Externally, impacting the positioning and value of an organisation. Leaders must have the skills and capacity to constantly seek out information, both internally and externally, to enable discerned decision-making. In my experience, leaders must also be able to discern where the information has come from. Not all information is equal. It's not so much the answer you get, rather it's the question you ask. Within fast-paced environments, they will often have to rely on a balance between knowledge and their own instincts. The more formed they are, the easier the process. They need to also be enforcers, gentleness with firmness. They must be uncompromising when it comes to living the values and setting expectations within their organisations. Behaviours which are not in keeping with those values must be called out. One of the many gifts we have received from the founder are the letters he wrote to the brothers of the time. They highlight that being gentle does not mean that there are not clear expectations, nor at times the need for firmness. I also question whether leaders might not be better off being relentlessly dissatisfied. I heard this description when I undertook professional development at a leading business school, and it has very much stayed with me in the ensuing years. We should celebrate success, acknowledge what we have achieved, but we must avoid the temptation to leave our work there. Rather, we should continually challenge ourselves on what we can do better, do more of, and create the drive necessary to keep our organisations flourishing. Leaders, above all else, must uphold the values and the mission, make it a reality, and no matter the ministry, ensure that there is an obvious connection to the human and educational needs of the poor. Of course, accompanying such attributes must always be professional skill. We have been gifted with an easily understood higher purpose, and no matter what role people have in our works, capturing the reality of that purpose is essential in genuinely engaging the most critical of stakeholders, the people we have in our organisations. The challenge can be to not take that purpose for granted and expecting or believing that all those engaged or looking to be engaged know what it is and how what they do is truly connected. It can be easy to fall into the trap of believing we have stated the purpose and engaged with it enough. In my experience, we can never work on engaging people enough. I stated earlier that being a storyteller is important in our leaders. Engagement is the primary reason why. But storytelling must be authentic. An unauthentic leader will do more damage than good. So I would maintain the old adage applies: communicate, 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 and when you think you've communicated enough, keep going. Remember, our purpose is worth it. It is widely accepted that the more engaged people are, the more likely you are to deliver on your strategy to be successful. Disengaged people go through the motions, they lack drive and are unlikely to go that extra mile. Engaged people understand how what they do is part of the purpose. They are energised by what that means. The organisation's success is their success, and they strive to make a difference. As stated earlier, formation is critical. Our people strategies, starting from recruitment and induction, should aim to achieve genuine personal connection to the Lasallian mission and values, not just within a historical context, but in the here and now of today. The richness of learning and sharing, unpacking the challenges and successes, and fully utilising experiences create new opportunities at both the personal and professional level. Induction of staff and volunteers should always include a formation component. If this does not take place at induction, along with outlining other important elements of your work, what message does it send about the importance of the connection to the Lasallian charism? We need to also look beyond those experiences happening within our own organisations with regard to mission. The concept of being part of something bigger and longer lasting is powerful, and providing opportunities to profile and engage with others from different Lasallian works can build awareness, respect and collaboration, essentially furthering the sense of community. There are a number of international formation programs which have become renowned for deepening the sense of connection. Fatima and those programs operated in Rome at the Mother House are fine examples. The challenge is how we make such connection and formation opportunities available to as many as possible in ways that are relatable to their context. Whilst there is great value in bringing people together, we must also provide formation opportunities which can be undertaken individually, ensuring we recognise the need for self-paced, self-led development. We must also seek to use as many delivery channels as possible, utilising new technologies and social media platforms. We should also recognise the role that informal formation plays. In my own journey, I have been blessed to have had the opportunity to engage in formation activities within informal structures as well as the formal. The open discussions, reflections, debates, and at times disagreements which have taken place between myself and the brothers that I work with have not only been great learning opportunities for me, but also very stimulating, and I would like to think for them also. We should also ensure that we see formation as a never-ending series of opportunities. Lasallian universities and organisations that undertake research and develop advocacy papers provide a wonderful basis for engagement across the Institute. Matching universities with much needed research or evaluation of programs across the Institute could provide not only connection and engagement opportunities, but could also lead to increasing avenues for funding through validation of impact, as well as enhancing social justice projects. Immersion and mentoring are also powerful tools for supporting the development of those engaged in the mission and can play an important role in preparing future leaders. Many postgraduate courses include mentoring as an essential element in preparing individuals for the realness of leadership. The development of a specific Lasallian mentoring program could enhance the capacity for retention and ensure that talents and skills are fully utilised at the local, national and international levels. A key strategy for recruitment and retainment of those in our works, I believe, is engagement. You may consider undertaking engagement surveys with those in your organisations. For example, at your town, we do this every 2 years. It provides information of where we're at, what's working for us, what we need to do better, and includes measures of people's engagement with the mission and our values at all levels. The results are shared, nothing is held back. I found that to be very important. If you seek to have people undertake such engagement, then respect them enough to share the results and be open whilst doing so to the ideas that they have for improvements. Of course, there are many stakeholders who are engaged with our Lasallian mission, and they are varied. They range from the leadership of the Catholic Church to governments, and funding bodies through to a homeless child, each one requiring something different from us, but none more important than the other. Critical stakeholders are those within our works, as well as those we serve, those who come to our works as students or beneficiaries of aid and support. They deserve from us the very best we can offer and to feel valued, respected and heard. With our shared mission focused on growing the capacity of young people, ensuring authentic engagement with young people is critical. It is no longer enough to develop a service and expect that they will come. They want to be part of shaping it. Youth participation frameworks are no longer a nice to have. They are becoming a necessity for any organisation who wishes to position themselves as a credible and valued youth-focused entity. And of course, no money, no mission, but it's equally true in reverse, no mission, no money. There is no doubt funding and those who provide funding are critical stakeholders, and globally there are many different models for securing independent, that is, non-government funding, ranging from engaging with corporates, trusts and foundations, philanthropic organisations, through to individuals. Their engagement and belief in our mission is critical to sustaining and ensuring the development of our works. Just as connection to the mission is of paramount importance within our organisation, so too is the level of emotional connection we can encourage in those who partner with the mission through the provision of funding and other services. We need to also consider our structures. Structures are designed and developed to best deliver on the mission, objectives and strategies of our organisations. At least, that is the theory. We see today structural change in organisations occurring more regularly as they seek to deliver the best impact and value they can to stakeholders, both internally and externally. It is therefore critical that structures are reviewed as a matter of course to ensure their congruence to our objectives. Whilst determining the relevance of any structure is the mandate for those who govern, who lead our works across the Institute. It is worth noting that the 1989 circular on the Lasallian family acknowledged explicitly that the Lasallian charism had already escaped the control of the Institute. The Lasallian charism is no longer just that of the brothers, it has become a shared charism, and in doing so, perhaps the greatest success of all. Together and by association is a very vibrant and authentic relationship which exists between brothers and their partners in the mission. The fruits of that are evident in the manner in which the mission has been conducted and continued. Genuine participation in and for the mission is seen globally. However, in acknowledging that, how then does that sharing in the mission translate to shared responsibility at all levels, and can that be seen within Institute structures? There is the obvious matter that the Institute must comply with canon law and mandates. However, perhaps we should be mindful of not seeing that as an impediment to progressive options. As called for in Circular 470, we have been asked to promote new leadership among brothers and Lasallians, capable of boldly and creatively discerning Institute responses in view of society and the Church of the 21st century. It is widely acknowledged and backed up by research that diversity in attributes, skills, gender and race is key to good governance and performance. It is important also to consider how Lasallians, brothers and partners, are readied for their roles within the structures required. There is much stated in my own district about the reducing numbers of brothers and their ageing, and with respect, I would suggest that it is spoken about too frequently. It risks becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. Yet where there are younger brothers, they appear to lack awareness of the skills and attributes they will need to be leaders in the future. An example of this was when I was in Pakistan in late 2017. I was meeting with a group of young brothers. There was discussion about their likely responsibilities in the future. One of the younger brothers challenged me with the statement, "How can we be readied if we don't even know what is required to be a brother visitor or on councils or for leadership positions?" It is a very valid point. How are they and partners to know what is necessary if there is not a defined criteria? It is important to consider that for any structures to be successful, there must be clarity as to what is required from leadership roles, both for those who are in them now, but also for those who will need to fill them in the future. The promotion of leadership requires us also to consider how such leadership aligns with structures. How sustainable is it to have district councils of brothers only and mission councils? How do we determine if separation of functions is a better option than a one governance body equipped with skills as well as being diverse in its makeup? Why is the continuation of mission assemblies at district and international levels, to which brothers and their partners are invited, and which are then followed by chapters for brothers only, a better option than potentially just having one such event? Ultimately, the needs of the mission, those it serves, as well as those who share in the delivery of it, should be the determining factors for any structure. And in the context of the needs of those who share in the mission, we must acknowledge the role of women and consider how their contribution has evolved and what that will also mean for the future, for leadership and for structures. At the post-World War II General Chapter, when reflecting on the difficulties of keeping the schools in France working, the following remark was made: "Women have become an unfortunate necessity." I'll leave that to hang for a moment. We may look at that quote and think, well, that was some time ago, and a lot has changed, but has it? Research undertaken by Dr. Sue Hines of St. Mary's University of Minnesota, titled "The Lived Experience of First-Generation International Lasallian Woman Leaders," released in late 2018, highlights that we may not be as progressed as necessary. A participant who was involved in the study shared, and I quote from her message, "I can remember the first day of the first meeting I went to, one of the brothers got up and walked out just because of my presence in the room. It was quite shocking to many. I think about the second or third time one of the brothers in the group said to me, and I will never forget this because I can remember it verbatim, 'The reason we are losing the brothers' vocations is because of people like you who are taking all the good jobs. So what is there for a young brother to aspire to?' I am sure that we would all challenge the narrowness of that thinking, for there is, of course, another way to be looking at that. What mission would there be today without women? Why should they not have the same rights to aspiration as others? More than 56% of those involved in the mission are women. They have been and continue to be the fastest growing demographic of Lasallian. And women have always been involved in the mission. After all, Who was it that sent Adrian Nail to seek out the founder, Madame de Malfort? And who was it that advised, or rather told, the founder to return to his ministry when he was disheartened, exhausted, ill, and sick of battling the bishops? Louise Ors. The founder acknowledged that his connection with Louise was one of the greatest graces God ever gave him. As Louise stated, "You must not abandon the family whose father God made you. The work is yours. You must persevere in it until the end of your life." We might consider if we would be here at all if the founder had not listened to Louise. So why then, when women have been involved with this ministry from the very beginning, when women have become the single biggest group of Lasallians, do we continue to see them significantly underrepresented in leadership at all levels? Why is it that when comparing with national and international statistics, women in leadership within the Lasallian ministry are lower, and not just by a small margin? I would suggest there are a number of reasons. The structures of the Institute have not kept pace with contemporary best practice. When we consider global organisations the size of the Institute, it wouldn't be accepted to have all male leadership and governance at the highest levels, indeed at any level. But that is what we have, as do many other religious congregations. It may be that that is the way things are because of canon law or the bylaws of the Institute, but they were developed at a different time and in a very different world. It would surely be wrong not to at least look to how things can be changed. After all, Pope Francis has asked the global theological community to reflect upon ways in which the inclusion of women in the decision-making of the Church can be advanced. Such openness to change may well have been driven by significant breaches of trust within the Church, in particular those related to child sexual abuse. While there are multiple reasons for this, it has been acknowledged that the causes included the Church's hierarchical structure, poor governance, a culture of secrecy, and a lack of women in leadership roles. It may be that women by their very nature may have what are known as feminine or soft skills. They can be quiet, nurturing, cooperative and non-competitive, and wait to be invited to participate. These attributes may mean they lack visibility, that their skills and competencies are not recognised. Such lack of recognition can be by women themselves as well as others. But we must recognise and acknowledge that women are often more competent with emotions and communication, essential elements when dealing with young people, but also in leadership. It might also be that women have not yet reached a place of truly seeing this as a shared mission. In some cultures or contexts, women may more readily defer to brothers or their male peers or elevate their views or opinions. We must also acknowledge that in an international context, we have a very real cultural barriers to equality for women. We must ensure this is taken into consideration when we seek to engage with those involved in the ministry. We cannot apply a one-size-fits-all role to structures and models. In doing so, we will continue to leave behind those who are mission critical and who are mission critical in some of the countries and regions where the need is great. Brother and sister, human education. We must focus on what unites us, not what separates us. Today, gender remains a separator. Surely we need to recognise that at times the best man for a position may be a woman. Women should aspire to the same levels of influence and recognition in the mission as their male peers. The statistics and lived experience of many women in the mission showcase that gender bias continues to exist. It is important to acknowledge that I have highlighted the barriers and challenges we must overcome regarding the role of women in the Institute, and that some progress has been made. We have seen an increase in women engaged within Institute committees and representation on mission councils and leadership roles. But there is more work to do at a local, national and international level. My own experience of being supported, of being granted space to become a leader, and of genuine participation is one that I aspire to for all women. In the 2013 report from Young Brothers, it was noted, "We dream that our Association for the Educational Service of the Poor will continue to integrate the treasured gift that are our lay partners and to affirm their identity and role within the mission." I suggest to you, we need not dream. It is easily within our grasp. Inclusion for all is the way to make it a reality. In closing, it seems fitting to revisit what Louise said to the founder, especially in this year as we celebrate the life of St. John Baptist de La Salle and his death 300 years ago. What would he expect from all of us? I would suggest that as he did, he would expect us to turn our minds and our hearts to what more we can do and should do for the poor, for those living on the periphery, to never give up and to always remember this mission is a mission we share together, all Lasallians. We must see ourselves as agents of change, to respond to need, to create structures which are inclusive and demonstrative of the skills necessary to continue this mission of ours, and not to continue, but to see that it flourishes. We must draw strength from that which has come before and use that to have courage to forge a new path. It may be uncomfortable, and it may come with loss, hardship and challenge, but might that not be the very best tribute we could make to the life of the founder? And we must ask ourselves, if now is not the time for such courage, then when? And if it's not us, then who? Thank you.
We thank Dr. Adams for her intervention, and Brother Gustavo Ramirez Vargas is going to give her a diploma. Please come here to the stage so we can give her this regard. Well, how do you feel? Before we continue with these different speakers, we're going to give you some announcements. So please stand up, please. We're going to stretch our bodies. So I will raise one arm, I raise the other one. I stretch a little bit. You can stretch your legs if you want as well, so you can activate your circulation. Your neck. What about a smile? The shoulders, you can move your shoulders as well. We can reactivate our bodies. And while you are stretching yourselves, We want to remind you that you can go during the break, the gallery that is outside, Coordenada Azul, with a special exposition that is One Heart, One Commitment, One Life. Apart, we have a guided visit at 1:10 p.m. and I will take advantage of this time to announce that if you want to go or if you want this presentation, you can acquire them in the staff of exhibition in Lasallian edit. I have a box like this. And we have special printings with all the images of the gallery. You can acquire that in the stand of La Salle. Did you finish stretching already? Well, if you want to take a seat again. And we will continue with our activities. Communities of different Lasallian activities are highlighted due to the different contexts they live in, with the different sectors they work with the quantity of people they work with as well. However, in all of them we have different inclusive spaces, aware of the formation of all the participants in which we live fraternity value. In order to talk about how we live in community in different countries, the challenges they are facing, the way they are forming their teams. We have the participation of 5 experts, the same experts that come from different countries. We have France, Panama, Mexico, Togo, and United States. This table of experts is named Lasallian Community and is going to be coordinated by Mr. Vasquez, that is a broadcaster. The experts that are here with us are Jimena Amusi from the United States, Yamari Malengan from France, Edith Toby from Togo, Mariola Jung Torquemada from Panama, and Sister Hortensia Acosta Vasquez from Mexico. Please, let's give them a big applause. Well, before I give the floor to Manuel for the moderation, I will remind you this activity. Each of the experts will expose their viewpoint about the topic. We won't have any questions, however, you can write them down in their cards that you will be given, and then we will analyze that at the afternoon. It is important to remind that the last activity of the day are sessions that are going to be simultaneous, a group per expert in which they will answer your questions or doubts you have about this. So please just pay attention to this, so from now on you can select the group that you will attend to in the last session of the day. Join the conversation in session networks using the hashtag 300Lasalle, We Are Lasalle, and CEMEL300. Let's discover again diversity and the complexity of our global community. Please go ahead, Manuel. Hi, good afternoon. How are you? I hope that you had a coffee already, because we're going to have a really extensive conversation. We don't have to be that serious, because this is a space to debate and to listen to different points of view from the experts here regarding this topic. So let's take this with a smile. You can take some notes. Of course, you can have some feedback, and I will welcome the expositors I'm going to introduce to you. But before I do that, I would like to welcome you to this La Salle University campus, Mexico City. Please feel comfortable, and if you haven't had a coffee yet, please go and grab a coffee. We cannot have a beer today, maybe at 1 p.m. not yet, but meanwhile you can have a coffee, because we're going to talk about different and interesting topics that are for us and regarding communication in 21st century. So welcome once again to this Global Congress of Lasallian Education, and the topic of today is Let's Make a Community. So welcome. I'm going to introduce each of the experts that I have. We will welcome Kenina Amuse. She is the director of Lasallian Youngsters in the District of New Orleans of San Francisco in the United States. Welcome. We will also say hi. He is a lay and visitor from France district. Welcome. We will welcome as well Mariana Jo Torquemada. She is the coordinator of the Department of Psychopedagogy and secretary and member of the Council Merck National 2015-2018. We say hi to Toby. Since September 2018, she is teaching Spanish in San Agustin College in Tocopilla. So welcome. And we will start with the presentations with Sister Hortensia. She is the director of Peñitas La Salle in León, Guanajuato. Welcome. So we will start with this, so you can give us your points of view, so we can have a small debate and we can share ideas, because that's the point. And I will start asking a question, a very important question. So with this question, we can have more debate about that. So I will start asking, in the 21st century, how can we create community in the educational institutions? So if you want, we can start with Sister Hortensia. Please give us your point of view, and then we can continue with the rest of the experts. Well, good morning. I think that this is a very passionate topic. If it weren't, then I think this is something delicate that we have to be talking about during this event, because it is within the educational community when we can talk about this, and it's within this community when people we feel attracted to this topic. It is now when we are going to have this to comply with God's will. And God's will is that people develop as people. As Pope Francis said, that we need to humanize people nowadays. So which are the challenges, or which is my experience with the sisters from La Salle? Love this identity, identify ourselves with what we are, because most of the times we are, but we are not feeling that we are. And I think that most of the times we have a lot of flags, we have a lot of badges, and we show them. But what I think that we're missing is that power, or those attributes that are part of each of us, especially being conscious as human beings of what is the special attribute or the gift that we have, and especially women in this 21st century. We have to be aware as well and conscious, not to fight for everything. We have to be aware of which is the role within a community, an educational community. One of the key elements is to knit those bonds that are based in humbleness, but also with clear consciousness of what we are doing what we have done during these years. Not only to develop those roles that we have in our daily lives, because the administrative parts request that from us, and we have to respond to different situations that are just right there. As LaSalle, it is very clear that we are in a fraternity project. Most of the times, the structures of our community are focused in what we call, sometimes in a fancy way, of the departments. I am from the department X and you are from the other department. So which is the one that is most important, or which is the one that is asking or requesting? What I think is that from our point of view is that we have to knit those bonds. Because in such way, we can strengthen our capabilities and we can become important, so we can make what God wants to happen.
Thank you. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be here present and to share some of my lived experience from the perspective of the San Francisco-New Orleans district. When we consider what building community in the 21st century within the Lasallian context looks like, I wish to offer some principles that are part of the guiding approach and framework that's used in the San Francisco-New Orleans district. These principles, there are 5 of them, offer us a way to go beyond the borders, or rather more deeply into our lived understanding of faith, service, and community, all of which are hallmarks of our way of being and doing as a Lasallian community. So these 5 core principles, being faith in the presence of God, concern for the poor and social justice, inclusive community, quality education, and respect for all persons, can be a profound way that we build community in the 21st century, or continue to build community within our educational institutions. Each of these principles are some of the ways that we do Lasallian formation within the San Francisco-New Orleans district. And as we heard earlier this morning, formation is critical when we look at and talk about continuing our Lasallian mission. So within our context, these principles really provide a way to introduce students, faculty, and staff to the mission, and provide a way for us to live in community together. And essentially, at the heart of that, when we are talking about building community, it's essential for each member of that community to feel known. Relationships are at the heart of our mission. When we talk about being brothers and sisters to one another, and older brothers and sisters to the students entrusted to our care. So this community, or this sense of community, is a way for us to, again, allow ourselves to be seen as individuals, but also invite other members of our community to feel seen as well, providing opportunities for each person to share their stories, each person to share all that has been a part of their journey leading up to that point, so that they can feel connected, again, to this mission, to that individual community that they're a part of, and developing some common language with these core principles to have a sense of connectedness beyond the local institution. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenena. Jean-Marie?
Gracias, Kenena. Jean-Marie.
Bonjour.
Hola.
Comment allez-vous? Je vais parler français. Voilà, je voudrais remercier moi aussi les organisateurs et toute l'équipe qui nous accueille aujourd'hui, toute de l'université. La communauté éducative, c'est une expression très intéressante, mais qui peut être aussi un peu ambiguë, selon moi. En France, cette expression a 50 ans. Et ce sont les parents d'élèves qui l'ont inventée. Lors d'un congrès de parents d'élèves en 1967. Et au début, il voulait dire, nous aussi les parents, nous faisons partie de l'école, nous avons quelque chose à dire sur l'organisation de l'école. Cette expression, bien sûr, a évolué, et aujourd'hui, nous l'employons beaucoup dans tous les établissements lasalliens, tous les établissements catholiques et aussi tous les établissements publics. C'est officiellement écrit dans la loi. Un lycée public, un collège public est une communauté éducative. Donc nous avons raison de nous interroger, nous, Lasalliens, sur ce que nous voulons dire lorsque nous disons communauté éducative. Sinon, nous pouvons enlever le mot Lasalle de nos écoles. Je crois qu'il y a une ambiguïté peut-être qu'il faut, en tout cas en France, dont il faut se méfier. C'est que lorsqu'on parle de communauté, on pense aux frères. Et il y a un certain nombre de laïcs qui, en fait, jouent un peu aux frères et veulent être frères plus que les frères. Et il y a aussi des frères qui voudraient que les laïcs soient comme les frères et passent toute la journée à l'école et ouvrent le matin et ferment le soir et accueillent les groupes pendant les vacances. Ça n'est plus possible. Si nous voulons que vraiment les laïcs soient présents, actifs et responsables des écoles, il faut considérer qu'ils ont une première communauté qui est leur famille. Vous êtes ici nombreuses et nombreux à être père et mère de famille. Et hier soir, vous avez téléphoné à vos familles, n'est-ce pas? Levez la main, ceux qui ont téléphoné à la famille hier soir. Si, voilà. Wow. C'est votre première communauté éducative. Bravo. Vous pouvez vous applaudir. Donc nous devons réfléchir. Qu'est-ce que ça veut dire, frères et laïcs, ensemble et par association, en communauté éducative? Qu'est-ce que ça veut dire? Que les frères soient de vrais frères. Nous avons besoin de frères, de religieux. Et nous avons besoin de laïcs, de vrais laïcs, femmes et hommes, engagés dans la vie sociale, politique, familiale. Autre ambiguïté aussi, peut-être, c'est cette notion de communauté comme Jean-Baptiste et les premiers frères l'ont vécu, c'est-à-dire cette communauté scolaire, communauté école, cette unité de temps, de lieu, d'espace qui était la classe. Or, aujourd'hui, nous savons bien que tout cela est beaucoup plus flou. Nous savons bien que lorsque nos élèves entrent dans la classe, ils viennent d'autres communautés et ils sont connectés à d'autres communautés en permanence. Qu'est-ce que c'est que cette communauté de la classe que nous voulons faire vivre? Beaucoup de choses à dire sur ce point-là, selon moi. Et la dernière chose, pour ne pas être trop long, c'est la communauté lasalliane, comme ça, n'est-ce pas, ce matin? La communauté lasallienne, Lasallian Community. Nous sommes dans un congrès of Lasallian Education, comme s'il y avait une seule manière de vivre le projet lassallien. Et il y a, à mon avis, une ambiguïté autour de la marque Lasalle et une appartenance et un engagement personnel de chacun des Lasalliens. Je crois que nous devons réfléchir à cette articulation, à cette tension entre être dans une grande communauté lasallienne, appartenir à une grande communauté lasallienne, au risque d'être seulement une marque, et être lasallien personnellement, être engagé, parce qu'on parle bien d'une vie, d'un cœur, d'un engagement.
Merci, Jean-Marie. Bueno, pues hay que
We
recordar
need
que
to commit to this in our lives. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Good morning. I'd like to thank the organizing committee for the invitation, and I'm really happy to be here sharing this space with you. I am not an expert. I am a lay woman. I work at a school. I'm a psychologist within a educational community. I work with around 1,000 students, and all are committed to the mission. In base to this experience, I'd like to share what I've lived in this community. Regarding the question about the challenges of building educational communities in the 21st century, I'd say that before speaking about community and educational community, we would have to look into the roots of our missions. This is key to face the 21st century's demand. We need to think that our founder had to respond to a special call. He had a vision and creativity. He revolutionized the education of the time. But I think that what's more important is the mission seen as one commanded by God. This reflected in the education of the young. So evangelization is key through to transmit through education. We have different borders that we need to face, different challenges as well. Our students live their own spiritual borders, emotional borders, personal borders, social, and at the same time, we also live our own boundaries. And we need to examine ourselves first to build these educational communities, know our borders as human beings, to really be committed to the mission, understanding its essence as well. So for me, first, before building community, we need to examine ourselves and then reflect about our spirituality, our faith, reflect about if we're really believing in Christ. Now that we're talking about this topic, I think it's important to make this introspection, to really be aware of how are we assuming this educational community. And this community, as mentioned before, has to foster the interpersonal relationship. We need to have an educational community based on the gospel. We cannot have this type of community if we do not involve God in our lives. This is basic because our students are seeking to see this, to see God's presence within our communities. They need a framework of reference. So this is our commitment. And also, the first communities, the first Christian communities, if we think about the past, these were connected mainly as in families. and they had harmony. Harmony has been present all the time based on love and forgiveness. And this capacity of asking for forgiveness and forgiving is something that is not quite easy within a community. So this is what makes a difference with other educational communities. Pope Francis said that a community has to be based on testimonies of faith and centered on poverty. Not only has to be sensitive to poverty, but also has to examine our own poverties within our communities. How do we live with it? If we live it with, if we're humble to this aspect, and how do we see richness and goods within our community? So if you see within Christian communities, there are different values of fraternity, faith, they believe in God, and they work with poverty. I think this educational community based in these principles is definitely a reference for these young people. We have to give an answer to the challenges of this new era and these new times. I would say that there are many difficulties that students face. They have their own challenges, and these kids have an emptiness, a spiritual emptiness. So they are easily impressed by social shifts, and they are disoriented, confused. They are children that we see in classrooms that are facing tough situation. They have different problems within them, and it might be difficult for us to face this, but St. John Baptist de La Salle calls us to face these challenges through the gospel and provide an environment where students can see different interactions, healthy ones, and that are good for them. Communities that work as reference for them and help their emotional states so that we can transform their lives. Thank you very much, Mariola. And we'll close with Edith. Welcome again.
Comité organisateur qui m'a invité. Ça fait quelques mois que l'information m'est parvenue. Ayant une petite expérience de 11 ans dans une école lasallienne et étant une ancienne élève d'une école lasallienne, je peux oser parler de la communauté éducative au XXIe siècle, d'après mon expérience. En ce XXIe siècle, la communauté éducative doit être basée sur la collaboration entre les différents acteurs qui composent cette communauté. La communauté éducative, comme vient de le dire Jean-Marie, a un sens bien déterminé dans chaque établissement scolaire ou bien dans chaque école, entité scolaire. À mon niveau, la communauté éducative est composée de la communauté des élèves, la communauté des enseignants et maintenant les parents d'élèves. Dans chaque structure scolaire, l'attention doit être tournée à nos jours vers l'élève parce que c'est lui qui est le plus indesté et c'est le destinataire privilégié de chaque collège. Mais avant que cette communauté éducative ne soit, on voit d'autres acteurs, essentiellement les enseignants. Aujourd'hui, les enseignants sont presque mis à côté, entre guillemets, dans une communauté. Tout d'abord parce qu'ils ne sont pas engagés par l'État, ils ne sont pas bien vus, bien rémunérés aussi, et eux-mêmes, ils se déprécient un peu de leur rôle. Or, la société manque de repères. Nous savons tous que la famille abandonne un peu, ou bien plus ou moins, la famille ne fait que créer, ne fait que donner des progénitures. Et on donne la tâche aux professeurs, aux éducateurs. On fait plus confiance aux éducateurs pour la formation. Alors, d'un côté, la famille néglige un peu son rôle premier. Alors, c'est à l'éducateur, à l'école de tout faire. Ainsi, dans chaque communauté éducative, si même nous savons que le destinataire principal, le destinataire principal est l'élève, on ne doit pas négliger le rôle de l'enseignant. Alors l'enseignant doit être bien préparé, bien formé sur tous les plans. Pour ce faire, entre éducateurs, l'équipe dirigeante, l'équipe directrice doit avoir souci à celui qui, chaque matin jusqu'au soir, reste auprès des élèves. Et l'enseignant doit avoir, ou bien doit approprier les caractéristiques nécessaires pour affronter son rôle au quotidien. Tout d'abord, il doit savoir que la communauté éducative lasallienne, c'est une école chrétienne catholique qui doit éduquer aux valeurs chrétiennes, aux valeurs spirituelles, parce que nous sommes appelés à former non seulement l'individu sur le plan intellectuel, mais aussi sur tout le plan spirituel surtout, pour que l'individu soit un, pour que l'élève soit un. Voilà, parce que l'élève est une valeur absolue, négligée par l'État par moment, négligée par les parents par moment. Mais l'éducateur doit approprier tout cela. C'est pour cela que je parle de collaboration. L'éducateur qui est formé doit former alors l'élève. L'éducateur alors forme ainsi les parents d'élèves qui peut oublier ou bien abandonner un tant si peu son rôle. Alors, l'éducateur est la base de la communauté éducative. L'éducateur bien formé est à la base de la réussite de la communauté éducative. Donc, au XXIe siècle, l'attention, moi j'aimerais bien que l'attention soit tournée plus sur la formation de l'éducateur, sur l'innovation technologique, sur n'importe quelle innovation, pour que l'enseignant soit à la hauteur de sa tâche. Et je crois qu'au XXIe siècle, pour notre communauté lasallienne, voilà, nous pouvons être, chaque communauté peut être un signe indicateur dans le monde. Merci.
Muchísimas gracias, Edith. Con esto concluimos una primera idea de esto, cómo hacer comunidad. Y me parece que
Thank you, Edith. I think you mentioned two basic and main aspects. One, family, and second, the use of technology, because we've seen different cases in which technology doesn't help quite well. We've seen different examples, like in shooting in Brazil, in a school in Brazil, different things that happen in Mexico, around the world. So what happens within families and technologies? Let's discuss these two questions. What's the role of the family in these cases, and technology to build community? And how can we avoid to go in the wrong paths?
Well, I do believe that that is something that we already know, that is essential on behalf of family. the continuous attention. And for that, I think that with the school, we have to support each other. We have to be with the family, and we have to be aware of what is the family doing, why is they doing that, how they're traveling, how they're teaching to travel their kids in this world that they're living nowadays. I think that school is lacking a vision to see a Lasallian community of how to keep inspiring families to keep looking the ways and the strategies so they won't be that busy or really busy in a lot of things, so they can be aware of just looking for the essential things. We as schools, we need to give our kids the necessary tools so they can know how to travel, how to deal with those places that are presented with a lot of things that they're dehumanized, they're degraded. So we're losing, and we can see that every day, all the day. Teachers, we have these experiences, difficult experiences with our kids and with our youngsters regarding those things that they have within with their lives, with different messages that are not helping them to connect with their own personality or with their own values, with their own value. I think that we have to establish together, first we have to look forward which are the best paths so we can establish all the strategies in which we all can be involved, so we can give all those gifts and qualities that we have.
Considering technology, the family, and how that factors into community, a number of things come to mind. One being ensuring that the family is invited or feels welcome to be a part of the school community in a number of ways. That can take different forms depending on the context, whether it be making sure or giving time to provide formation for parents and for families as appropriate and as resources allow. And then in relation to the students, and it relates to technology, something that we're faced in is that technology is an inevitable part of our lives in the 21st century. It's an inevitable part of students' lives. So how can we integrate that and use it in a way that's positive and in a way that students are also educated on the proper use of technology, but also given those spaces to rest from or take a break from these different technological resources. When considering community, though, I think technology can be an invaluable resource for us as the Lasallian family and as educators. As we were reminded this morning, our time here together in this World Congress is being live streamed. And beyond our community here present, there are others joining us electronically as well. So how can we use such resources to our advantage? How can we use technology to also encourage our students to get to know one another across the Lasallian world? What are some of the opportunities that are there? There are a plenitude of opportunities, and one example that comes to mind, both in the San Francisco-New Orleans district, but in the Lasallian region of North America in general, is that with our twinning program, students are now having an opportunity to interact with students in the Luanga district. So they're interacting with each other through video conferences and different things like that. So yes, there are challenges with technology, but I think there's also a wonderful opportunity for us to educate students on proper use and use it to continue to strengthen the community bonds of the Lasallian family.
Thank you. Helena. Jean-Marie?
Oui, évidemment, c'est un problème, c'est une question très large. Je pense qu'il pense pas que
Well,
ce soit un problème.
obviously that's a problem. But actually it is not a problem. The thing is that it is a wide situation. During 14 years, I was managing Lasallian established institutions, and as you know, it is something common that the director is at the entrance in the morning, so they say hi to all the students, or because, I don't know, I have to take their headphones away. So I always question myself, up today, in 21st century, what is justifying that these 2,000 students every day, they have to walk kilometers, or they have to take a bus or the subway or car or whatever, or they're burning hydrocarbons to get to this school? What is justifying this nowadays? In certain parents, or in certain cases with certain parents, we can say that they don't need the school. So why they are at school? Some of them need it, some of them don't. It depends on the family. As we were saying yesterday, the school, it is a right and it is also a good that is bought. And we know that in a lot of schools we have people that are looking forward to have a good school. So what is making this to people to walk these paths, to take the kids to these teachers, because they're not always that competent? Because internet, for instance, is a good question, and I think that the answer is only could be found within the human community, the one that we find one day and the next one and the next one. And we want to form that community because we as Lasallians were convinced that there's a mystery within this relationship between boys and girls and youngsters, adults as well. Of course, it is for learning. That is for our learning in school. But we also have our lives. We're playing with our lives. So, Christian community or human community that we want to create has no sense unless we do everything that we do, we create all those values that I just mentioned before, because we have the family, maybe they can find a better school, etc. Thank you, Jean-Marie. Well, there is no doubt that family is the main responsible for the education, and actually, a school and family is the place where we educate our kids. The use of technology, the family is the main responsible to educate their kids. The responsible use of technology and to create healthy habits when they're using technology and social networks as well. So we as schools were the responsible for this education. We share this education with parents, and it is important within the educational environment to create this education. And sometimes I think that parents, they don't know, they are not really aware about the consequences that technologies have. And I know that they think that they are useful so their kids can create appropriate habits when they're using technologies. So we as schools, we have to form our parents, we have to form our students, but mainly we have to go deeper with the value and respect of human quality. When we face different consequences of the misuse of social networks or technology, some of things like sexting or stalking people, these kind of situations within social networks, we need to find what is in there, what is addressing, what is going on with this situation, with the families, with the spiritual education, with the lack of supervision, with the lack of structure within their families. For us, it's really important to create a structure within the family, to have a really strong structure so they can use technology in a useful way. And through the School for Parents, it is an important resource so we can form parents as well. Through the different campaigns in our school, for instance, every year we have a Pacific meeting, and in that Pacific meeting, we create consciousness about using and respecting human quality in all the senses. because we are all different. And what we have had as a result is that the main characters of these campaigns are the students. So the students that are guided by the community that address this campaign are those that develop these leaders of being sensitive. And of course we talk about the social networks. So when students are talking with their peers, with other students, because talking about, I don't know, abusing, we can go further and we can reach different hearts. We have to establish as well clear policies with our agreements, because I think that for a student it is very important to have this kind of information to develop so they can assume the responsibility and the consequences of their acts. It is not only about a pedagogy of punishment. It is we have to instruct them. What we are assuming in the school is that when we have any kind of situation that is involving the misuse of social networks, is that we can give the student an opportunity to have different experiences, or they can repair their experiences. So in this way, they can be more aware of how to use the social networks, and they can be aware of the consequences. It was very interesting, all of the points of view, so please we will finish with you. Edith? Thank you. Well, the role of family in education of your kids, the role of technology in 21st century in education, in my context is a little bit different from yours. I come from Africa, specifically from Togo, and in there we don't have a lot of technology like you have here. For students, for instance, when we talk about technology to them, their first reflection is WhatsApp, Facebook, and that's it. The student is not aware that with technology they can learn. Younger students know that, but older students, they know that there's more things about not only copy and paste. That means that technology is not really attached to our students. Now with trainings that the teachers are having, we ourselves discover how to use technology. So we can prepare our classes, for instance, or even we can teach our classes. The student is playing with his or her Android, and they're just, I don't know, visiting or surfing a prohibited web page, and they're not doing what they should be doing with their phones. Now, everybody can have access to a phone, but what are you doing with your phone? Which is the function that you are giving to it? So this is the educator's role. They have to control everything, to remind the students that it is okay, it is a communication media, but it is a privileged thing that they can use to go deeper with their knowledge, so they can give them better resources, so they can be well prepared. I don't know, for instance, to see what they're going to see in the next chapter. So this is helping us to have a working team. And we are far away from that. We cannot do this exercise in a group, so everybody can be in the same platform. That we don't do that yet. And of course, we haven't reached that level. Not yet. Now, regarding the family and what its role, I think that in most of the cases, parents they ignore the behavior or the character of their kids. It is the educator that tells them, hey, your kid is doing this. Well, no, my kid is not, it's not possible. My kid is not like that. So we have an interaction with that between the student and the educator, mainly. That is what I do most of the times. I talk to the student and I say, well, give me your phone, your father's phone number. I will call him or call her. And the mother say, well, no, that's not my kid. That's not true. And I say, yeah, that's true. So then we go to the principal, we gather all together and we train them. Well, sometimes we are afraid of doing that and we don't want to talk directly to the parents because most of the times, they ignore which are their roles. How the boy or the girl are not opened. They don't talk to their parents. However, in the school, in a month or 2 months, we know which kind of behavior or which kind of student we have in front. So we bond both roles, and we help the parents to know better, to guide their kids. Actually, what we don't do in the school is the parent school. Yeah, well, frequently we mention that within our annual plan. We have to gather with the parents, but they don't assist. So there is other ways, other methods to teach the parents. That is our challenge nowadays, that we have to have this parent school, not only to call them to make them collaborate. The thing is that we want to make them know which is their main role, which is their capacity to help them so they can help their kids. We're running out of time, and we are creating Instagram stories. I invite you to do the same, because we can use in a proper way social networks. We are creating community and we are using hashtags. It is a good way for us to communicate each other via Twitter, Instagram or Facebook. So taking advantage of this time, let me remind you that you are following us with Instagram and Twitter. We are alive with our YouTube channel here in Universidad La Salle. So we just keep adding more information in Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Let's do a good use of social networks. We are about to finish with this debate, so as a conclusion, I would like you to tell me or expose or share from your point of view, which are these advices that you can give to us to improve and to have a better community every day.
Well, I think that more than an advice, it's an invitation to create consciousness about if we're being faithful to our intentions, being faithful to what we're pursuing, what we're invited to do, will arise our creativity that will help us to answer these challenges that we're facing in our daily lives. And these intentions will give us the strength in our spirits that is quite meaningful in our work of building communities, specific and necessary for our children to find a regenerator space within them that they need. Well, I want to thank Sister Hortensia Vázquez from Las Salteñitas in León, Guanajuato. Give her an applause.
Some of the concrete daily ways to build and strengthen community. A number of things come to mind. I'm struck by something that was mentioned, that Tracy mentioned during our keynote around courageous reflection. So creating those spaces for courageous reflection in our daily interactions, our daily experiences, and how we can more fully be community to and with one another. And when thinking about community, the best place to start is with the person in front of you, with the student in front of you, with the colleague that you see on a daily basis. How do we cultivate relationships with one another? How do we get to know that person so that when challenges arise, you have a full or a fuller picture of that person, their story, their circumstances, and can see how to walk with that person or with that student in their journey. So those would be some concrete ways on the daily level to cultivate and strengthen community.
Muchísimas gracias, Kenena Amusi.
Thank you, Elena Musi. She is the director of Lasallian Youngsters from the New Orleans, San Francisco district in the U.S.
Moi, je voudrais conclure en lançant cet
Well,
appel,
I'd like to close by
sous la forme d'un
making
slogan,
a
peut-être qui
call
pourra faire l'objet d'un congrès, peut-être
that
un
has
jour.
to do with the slogan.
Pas d'école sans professeur.
We don't want schools without teachers. They cannot exist. And I think that we all might agree with this evidence, Lasallian evidence. The first thing that Jean-Baptiste made was calling teachers. So to create a school together, they cannot have a school without teachers. Now in France, and probably in other places, we do not have enough teachers. We do not have teachers. So what we do is that we welcome them, we try to form them, train them, we kind of make them Lasallian shaped, but we do need to have more teachers. It's something serious for me as a director. I've seen this lots of times. I've seen a lack of French teachers, math teachers, for instance. So we want to build this educational community, yes, but we do need more teachers. So I'd like to say this as a conclusion. That's what's happening in France. And nowadays, we need to prioritize the function of teachers and educators. There's lots of things to do, and we need to keep going forward. This is an essential mission, but we need more teachers. We need to call them and make ourselves be heard in different places. Show them that there's a development and we are glad to be teachers. This has to be a call from the heart. Thank you, Jean-Marie. Mariola? Well, I would like to invite you as well to what we were saying before, to consider the gospel within our educational communities through the life of Jesus, to really live the gospel. We need to be brave and courageous within this century. And we are not a corporation organization. We are an educational community with a mission, and a specific mission. I'll also like to invite you to, whenever we're feeling fear or doubt inside our communities, either we have a spiritual crisis or personal crisis, seek these opportunities to look into God. As LaSalle and many other saints went through the dark night of St. John, through different moments that give us opportunities to once again look and regard to God. Jesus went into a lot of suffering when he passed away, but he was convinced that the Father was leading this mission. Thank you, Mariela. She coordinates the psychopedagogy department and is member of the National Council. Thank you. Edit to be. Well, I think that the educational community of the 21st century needs to do its part. Each community has a role to play. The educational community must help other peers, partners, students, those who are vulnerable, because they are counting on us, and we don't have to stigmatize this while saying, well, they don't behave, they're bad kids. No, we need to love them, we need to help them to go up and to move forward. We have lots of opportunities in the 21st century for young people, and we need to be the lamp that lights their path. Thank you. Thank you. She has taught Spanish language in her community through all of these years. Thank you once again for being here. And thank you all of you for being here and helping us to build a community, also to the authorities that are gathered here today in this event, and also the participants, and of course our holy founder, St. John Baptist de La Salle, through his third centenary anniversary. Thank you. I am Manuel Zamacona. Have a great day. Have a nice lunch, brunch, go stretch yourselves, and have a wonderful day. In Divisa Mane. We would like to thank Kenina Musin, Jean-Marie Valangan, Edith Toubi, Marlena Jean, Sister Hermana Hortensia Vasquez, also Brother Pablo Petri, for the visitor from Antillas, Mexico, if you can come up to the stage to give you your diplomas. We still have some announcements to make, so please stay here a little longer. Please stay for a little longer. We have some announcements for you. So give them an applause, please. This was an interesting journey today. So now we're going to recall the activities that we'll have for the rest of the day. At 11, each participant should join the same reflection table that you were working in yesterday. You have the number of the classroom that you should go to in your badges. Also at 12:15, we'll meet in Unit 2 to share lunch together. And from 1:30 to 3:40 p.m. with a 15-minute break, we'll have the workshops and exhibitions. And also check your badges or the program in the app so you can go to the room that interests you. Then we will divide in 3 groups at 3:45 to continue the interaction with experts. with Kenna Amusi, Tracy Adams, will be in the room St. John 23rd. Then Jean-Marie Validam and Mariola Tarquemara will be another group, and in this auditorium we'll have Hortensia Costa and Edith TGV. Then you will not be needing the translation equipment for the rest of the day. Please turn them on in the lobby of the auditorium. We will now invite you to the Hospitality Center. There will be another meeting later on in the room 54 for leaders, and those who want to participate in the educational network for LaSalle, please go to the room that you have in your program. So go to lasalle.org for further information. Now we'll have a small break, and please be punctual so that our Congress can be effectuated properly. Thank you, and see you at lunch.
Follow Jesus brings within the Negro world. Freedom, poverty, spread a seed of hope, a little light of peace.
Une fraternité continue la mission de le guide avec la foi et aide ceux qui souffrent avec sa gisance. Les rameaux gagnent le cœur et ont raison de croire. Tu peux changer la vie.
If we decided taking option for the others, we wanted to be and learn together, preaching by example, always doing with His presence. We all learn from the Star Trek, we all work through the Star Way.